Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart as well as other indicators for crypto and Bitcoin. Let's start off with fear and greed. And even though there's been some negative price action going on recently, we are still up in high greed. As you can see, looking over the last few months, we are in this downtrend. So we are making lower highs, lower lows, creating sort of a descending channel, if you will. Just to keep in perspective, we experienced something similar to this in March. I'm not saying that we're going to do the exact same thing in March, but you do want to be prepared for that. Have a plan, have a strategy so that you can react accordingly, even if there's negative price action in crypto. And just going back for as much as the data we have in fear and greed, when we get these spikes, those are typically local tops. So is this a spike, or are we going to continue to stay up in greed? In late 2020, when that happened, then Altseason and the first true peak of 2020 was not too much further. Of course, as we have these drawdowns, you want to keep it in perspective. This chart, we do have to update whatever drawdown in the price that we've currently had. I believe it's more than 15% now. But just for perspective, this is normal even in a bull market to the top. So yes, these dips do suck, and we all want to get really good money off our crypto holdings, but just keep it in perspective. There are indicators that I believe show that the top is still coming. And as far as how we can make money off this outside of Bitcoin, an important chart to keep in mind is the Bitcoin dominance chart and the Bitcoin dominance cycle. We'll take a look at that chart, but do know when that crashes and there's a rotation from the money that's in Bitcoin into other altcoins, that's when those altcoins value can explode. Now, some of them have already been going up 5 to 10x since the bottom, but do know that in the past, when Bitcoin was pretty close to one of its peaks, typically that rotation doesn't happen until the last month. So, not that you can't make profits before then. I think now we're still in a good value time to dollar cost average in many of these altcoins, but just keep that in perspective. That's when you'll want to consider taking profits. As far as the Altseason index, you can see we're still making higher lows. So because we have this higher low, is now a good value time to buy. We'll take a look at that. And for perspective, as far as last crypto cycle and Altseasons were concerned, you can see we haven't even had one of these major spikes yet. So hopefully one of those is coming in the near future. The rainbow chart. Let's get over to this and see if we can decipher somewhat of what's going on. So I've talked before, and we'll have to reset it here. When I first started this channel is before this halving, and when I was taking an educated guess at where the halving price might be, I noted that we had this sort of phenomena where we have lessening volatility, diminished returns, and you can see that each halving, as far as a rainbow chart goes, we go up a color band, and that's indeed what happened last time. We were inside this color band. I also noted that as far as the tops go, we see a similar phenomena, that we were above max bubble territory, into this red territory, into the reddish orange, and that next cycle I'd be taking a look at somewhere in these orange boxes, conservatively speaking. We can go back to the last rainbow chart and you can see similar phenomena as far as those peaks. So those peaks do tend to have diminished returns as time goes on, but this is a logarithmic regression scale. Log scale means it goes up by factors of 10, and then regression, it regresses, it flattens out over time. Still means that we can make good money, but as far as this rainbow chart goes, we have to be looking at these orange areas, I believe. Orange to the orangish red is areas where you want to consider taking profit, and areas down here, whether yellow or lower, where you're looking for dollar cost average opportunities. If we zoom in a bit, and I want to scroll over so we can get 2025 in play, as far as if we do end up somewhere in these orange bands, to we can take a look at it from a couple of ways. I'm sure you've heard of the 4-year cycle. However, Altseason was in the end of quarter one of 2021. You can see here the peak, if this works, December 2017, this peak, November 2021, 4 years later. So some people are saying, well, 4-year cycle is just going to be later in 2025. That's when we're going to have the peak, somewhere in November or December. Others are saying maybe we're going to get a 4-year cycle from this time. Guys, I'll tell you this. I don't know when the peak's going to be, and there's nothing to say it has to be around 4 years from either of these. But the way I'm approaching this is I have a strategy, I have a plan. I dollar cost average in where there's value. I'll show you on the charts ways I look for that value. And I'm waiting for the orange areas on the rainbow chart. I'm waiting for Bitcoin dominance to rotate and for alts to have their final leg up. I'm waiting for areas on the Bitcoin chart to get to a more extended value. I've been talking about the 2618 at 155K. So I'm waiting for those factors. And here's Bitcoin dominance. If you're new to crypto, Bitcoin dominance, you can see there's this rotation to the low. You see the percentage at the right, the low 40%. This phenomena only lasts about a month, and it has the last couple times a month or so. This one more like a month and a half. So that is what I'm waiting for. I don't know when that's going to happen. It can happen in quarter one of next year, 4 years from this peak. It can happen quarter three, quarter four of this next year. It might not happen to 2026. So I try to prepare myself mentally for any scenario. I've been seeing a lot of talk out there on X and in YouTube videos where they get so obsessed with predicting where the top will be. My advice is, and nothing's financial advice here, have a strategy that beats whatever prediction. Whatever you hope will come true. Now, I do hope in Altseason. I believe in it. And so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is there. I'm going to bank on that. But I'm going to budget accordingly. I'm going to manage my risk. I'm not going to overextend myself. And I don't care when Altseason happens. But I will be ready for it because I believe it will happen. Will it? Who knows? We'll see. So as far as where we are right now, we're in this yellow zone. Now let's go out to quarter one, late quarter one, let's say 4-year cycle from 2021 when we had Altseason. Where are those orange boxes? You can see the one right above yellow is at 121K. And then the upper orange box gets up to 200K. I think that's fair to say if Bitcoin were to top at the end of quarter one, 2025, around March, April, I could see Bitcoin getting in that range. I know it's a big range. That 155K, that's right in the middle. I just showed you guys that is a Fibonacci retracement target, the 2618. 155K is when I am seriously going to consider taking profits if a dominance rotation is happening. Let's go out to a 4-year cycle from, we'll do this, early December. We've had a top in Altseason in December of 2017, and then a top in November 21. Where's the price action there? If we get somewhere in the orange bands, 150K, that's right around the 2618, to almost 250K. You see that orange box says 191 to 250K. So let's take a look at that. We have our range. Do any of our Fibonacci targets hit those areas? And for perspective, I want to show you this. This is another way of looking at the rainbow chart regression in a way. You can see that when we draw a fib, and this is the fib retracement tool right here, you draw from the high to the low, you take your fib off log scale, and you can see last cycle Bitcoin got between the 3618 and the 4236. That first peak, it got right up to the 3618. However, this is what's been happening each cycle, is that the fib level that Bitcoin gets to is it gets a lot lower as far as those fib retracements are. We have to, again, take this off log, and you'll see the fib that Bitcoin got to from the 2013 peak into 2017. It was above our charts. Okay, not going to chart it all. You're going to have to trust me, bro, for a little bit. I don't want to be in the weeds too long. But each cycle we hit a lower fib. So knowing that we've got between the 3618 and the 4236, where might we go if we hit a lower fib this next cycle? Well, the 3618 is at 208K. And so, in my opinion, that is the ceiling. That is the absolute ceiling, somewhere around 208. Let's just say 210K. The 2618 is at 155. Again, we showed how in the rainbow chart where that lines up as far as some of these values go. You saw that. Let's go back to it. So the 2618 at 155K, that applies in both scenarios. And that would be, you see right there, the orange box. It's at the beginning of the orange box, and it's at the top of the lighter orange box. 155K, 4-year cycle. Let's go to November. You can see 155K. Well, oh, that's 2026. I want a year forward in time. This chart is a little touchy. All right, you can see there, even in the lower orange box, it's at the lower end of that. Now, maybe it gets above it. Something I've considered is that our dollars now compared to last cycle are worth 20% less. We've had inflation run since this time. Our money, our dollars are worth 20% less. So can't our targets add on 20% more? And if that were the case, 20% more than 155 is around 185K. So even factoring in inflation, I think somewhere in this range, in my opinion, is where I would be looking for a peak. Now, what's going on with current price action? I want to show you a couple things. So one, we do have a weekly sell signal. This does suck. You can see there's this double top trend line from here. This does suck that we're not going to all make money from altcoins in the next week and the next month. But you know what? This gives us more opportunity to DCA, to dollar cost average. When we are feeling fear or FUD and we are feeling disheartened that the market isn't going straight up, that's when you want to be looking for deals. So there is negative sentiment out there. I swear, even with this move going on right now, the sentiment is almost as bad as it was back in August. And we haven't even had that bad of a move here. So as far as where the price is right now, Bitcoin, we were in this ascending channel and it did get down and out of it. But where did it stop? It's stopping at the 50-day moving average. Now, I showed you on that one chart before, it was talking about a 15% drawdown. So that's about where we are at right now. Okay, we're still at 15%. Could it get bigger? Sure. We might get drawdowns from, let's go from this peak. Where's the 100-day moving average? 20%, 22%. Where's the 200-day moving average? At around 74K. That's at 30%. Again, keeping this in perspective, we can have 30% corrections. I mean, 2017, there was a number of 40% corrections. Can you imagine if you're new to crypto and Bitcoin's going up to 200K and altcoins will 10x from here? Would you be holding through 1, 2, 3, 4, 40% corrections and 3, 30% corrections? That's going to, a lot of people are going to be leaving the market. They're not going to be able to handle that volatility. So being someone who was in crypto in 2017, I remember people just joking about another 40% correction. I feel battle tested, and my mindset is I know there's going to be these drawbacks, and I'm going to look for deals at those times, for deals in the market. So whether Bitcoin holds support at the 50-day moving average, and I hope it does, but even if it gets down here, I'm going to be dollar cost averaging in more. I might extend my budget or take some of the money pulled over that I didn't use in prior months' budgets into buying more altcoins here. That's part of my plan. That's part of my strategy. Again, I showed you where dominance is, but we can take a closer look. It did have this little spike up. And where did this spike go? Right around here. There is some confluence there, but it does have some negative action going on here. Did get support at the 50 and the 100-day moving average. We want to see dominance, break under this area, this 57.5 to 58% to resume a downtrend. But maybe it is going up to a higher peak. I don't know. Just something to consider. Going back over to Bitcoin, let's take a look at a couple different charts here. All right. So we do have a sell signal, but the 50-day moving average is holding. All right. One of the things I was looking at, one of the indicators, there's different RSI indicators. There's a stochastic RSI, relative strength index, the regular RSI, and there's the ultimate RSI. I've been seeing people talk about how the RSI moves are similar to what it's been in the past. If you go way out on the monthly, okay, that when these RSIs, let's do a different Bitcoin chart that's not so cluttered. Here we go. That's cleaner. That when the RSI is turning green, we don't have much further, and maybe the top's in a couple months. And it might be. You could also draw a trend line here, okay? And you say, you know what? Look at this RSI. Look at that trend line. We're almost there. This is the end. We don't have Altseason. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is this. Each cycle, the relative strength is different. And I think a good way to show that is, for example, where is it? In tether dominance. Okay. Sorry, let me take that off log. Tether dominance, we've had this good phenomena of showing where the local tops are. Okay. But overall, the relative strength, it does change. Okay. You can't take RSI completely as an indicator to prove, okay, this is the time where we are going to be ending, but you will see that each cycle, the strength does change. Ethereum, okay, the strength does change. Now look at how much Ethereum has to run. Ethereum is not run yet, but it is flipping above this moving average in here. And so when it flips above there, it tends to be pretty bullish. So is alt season coming? Think of the sentiment that's out there. Right now, people are feeling very bearish, but we have a higher low in the alt season index. And we have these indicators, at least moving average wise, to show us, okay, it's starting to flip bullish a little bit. Heck, even if we go over to Bitcoin dominance, look at how much this changes too. We can even go to the weekly and take a look at where our, we want to draw, you have to be careful of this, okay? Correlation does not equal causation. And so our minds make us want to draw correlations from prior cycles to now and say, well, look at this. There's bullish divergence. You see higher lows, but lower lows here in the action, higher lows here. So when that converged, boom, it was over. Okay, that's not what happened here. The dip coincided with the absolute low. So if you're waiting for bullish divergence, you weren't going to get that. All right. We haven't even gotten oversold, quote unquote, on the regular RSI. And we can go to other indicators. We can take a look at the ultimate RSI. And I want to show you guys something different each time, let you chew on it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But just something to consider. Ultimate RSI, look at how much bearishness has to play in before it truly falls off. Okay, ultimate RSI bottomed here, and it started to have bullish divergence. Again, see higher low in the RSI, lower in the action. Okay, what about here? Once the ultimate RSI was done, let's put this away. Actually, there we go. That's cleaner. Once it was done in the green zone, we still needed to go down a bit. And there's still another false bottom here, or you could say divergence, if you will. The ultimate RSI is showing that we have, let's say this is the last time we're in the green here, that Bitcoin dominance truly hasn't even started to rotate down yet. And let's assume, just going off this indicator. Again, we're drawing correlations. It's not a smart thing to do. That's why I don't go purely off of RSI, but I take a look at what's it done before, and might this tell us any bit of a story? If this is truly turning down from green, and you can see when it did that last time, it was here. When was the date around this time? Heck, I'll even give us this date, January of 2020. Alt season did not start until a year from then. December of 2020 is when it truly started. Do we have a year to wait as far as dominance here? I'll give us this peak. Where was that? December 2016. When was the bottom? It was alt season was December 2017. Do we have a year left? Going over to Bitcoin. And this is where you can get in the weeds, and just my advice is take all the indicators with a grain of salt. I want to show you a different indicator each video or a different perspective and let you decide on your own. How are you going to marry those together? How are you going to combine it to at least inform your decision? I'm not saying base your decisions off of this, but to inform it. If we take a look, this is just on the weekly, you can see how the RSI stays elevated. Here, not so much. Let's go over to the monthly. I think this one's even more telling. You can see how the peaks, the ultimate RSI, we may still have further to run. And as far as when it first got above, you can see right here when it turned green, November of 2020. Now, alt season truly ended around April to early May. So let's just say 6 months. November, December, January, February, March, April. Okay, 6 months. How about here? When did this start turning green? November 2016. Well, we know the peak was a year later, December. When did this start turning green? November 2024. So if you want to draw time-based correlations, which again is not, in my opinion, the smartest thing to do, this could say we might still be a year away. November, and then possibly November 25, if you're taking a year. If you're drawing comparisons last cycle, then you'd be saying, well, we had an alt season top within 6 months, but then I would argue the true peak was in November, a year away. So the 1 year argument takes place a couple times. Again, I'm not saying this has to happen. And frankly, I don't care when this happens. But I was taking a look at just some correlation. And again, correlation's not causation. Correlation's not causation. And good scientists will tell you that you need to consider all datas. And all because a lot of people are carrying umbrellas is not going to make it rain. Okay. So I do think it's curious how, even if we take a look, when's the last time it's green or spikes up to the top? December 2016, a year away. I'll give us this. December 2019, a year away from when it started. It was even a year or more. Here, it was still just green. Are we in another 4-year cycle? I'll leave that for you guys to decide. But as far as what I look at, how I am basing my decisions off when to dollar cost average in, I'll just go over this really quick. Okay. I showed you how to draw a fib from the high to the low. After we have a big move up, and actually let's go over to the daily. If we reach a fib and get rejected, this could be the start of a discount territory. Again, have your own plan. Okay. We have these daily moving averages. Maybe this is the start, the fib and the moving average, but you might also look at targets down here and be patient and be willing to budget in an increasing amount on the way down. It can be that simple. You can wait for, this is my buy sell signal indicator I use. Shout out, give credit to them, 1020 MA crossover. You can wait for buy signals on the weekly. And again, no one knows where the bottom truly is. And if you are dollar cost averaging in every buy signal down here when it's not extended, okay, right now, with all this considered, you would be dollar cost averaging in, this is just Chainlink, for example, but this could be anything. You're taking an average of 6, around 11, and around 15. If this altcoin is to do a 5 to 10x, you're not going to care if your average is 10 or 6 or 15 or some combination of that. Your average would be 10 right now. If it were to go 5, 10x from here, then you've not only caught the bottoms, but you've also caught other deep value areas as well. And so that's why I use moving averages. That's why I use fibs. Another tool that you can use, I showed you buy signals. Another tool you can use is stochastic RSI on the weekly. This is a good dollar cost average tool. Where did it go? I was blind there for a second. I typically also wait for this to flip all the way down and then come up, blue above orange. Okay. And you might get faked out. And I'll say, if you're willing to buy in here, then you got to be excited to buy down here. If you're not going to buy down here, when you did up here, you shouldn't have bought to begin with. So that is part of a dollar cost average strategy that I use. I'm not saying you have to use it. That's what I do. I'm not Warren Buffett. I'm not a multimillionaire. I'm just an idiot on YouTube. That is just part of my strategy. I always want to answer the central question: is now a good time to buy? And I also like to share, how do I buy? What are some ways I look at this? So right now, stochastic still up here. So that might give me pause. And by the time the stochastic flips down, maybe we can get something like Link at a little cheaper. You can also take a look at the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence. And you can see the MACD may be rolling down a little bit. But when it flips positive, that tends to be a good time when it's going from red to green. So there are multiple tools that you can use together. Again, fibs, moving average, buy signal, MACD, stochastic RSI. I like to use all those to tell me what to do, and they're not all going to line up perfectly. But when a lot of them are, and I'm at those good discounts, moving averages, fibs, MACD flipping positive, stochastic flipping positive, I am for sure dollar cost averaging it. That's me, right? So I did want to share that with y'all and just show that take a look at some of your favorite alts, stocks, whatever. Use those tools and make your own decisions on when to dollar cost average in. Did want to take a look at the RSI as well with y'all and temper our expectations. I'll end on this. I want to talk about one more point. Even when Bitcoin dominance first peaked in September 2019, y'all know that was a year and a half away from this. Not that we have to have this large of a consolidation phase, okay? In 2017, I'll say this was its first peak, that was around July. So it was just falling straight down, but I would consider this a peak as far as this alt cycle. Okay, this alt cycle did last about a year, but this peak, when it first fell and came back up, this is about 6 months. So do we have 6 months to a year? Maybe. And again, I'm going to be marrying all the different indicators together. Is Bitcoin dominance rolling over? Is Bitcoin around the 1618, or I'm sorry, the 2618 at 155? Is the rainbow chart up in the orange areas somewhere? I don't know where the top is. No one does. But if it's up there, 150 to 200K, in my mind, that's saying 2-minute warning, red alert. If Bitcoin dominance is falling below 50%, I'm saying 2-minute warning, fourth quarter, red alert. Okay, that's what's going off in my head. And those are the areas I'm looking to take profits. And just to address one last thing, Bitcoin dominance also coincides. Remember, September 2019, Bitcoin dominance peak, that was the dip of ETH Bitcoin pairing. Has ETH Bitcoin truly bottomed? I hope so. On the weekly, we don't know yet. We do have this higher low, but I don't know yet. As far as the daily moving averages, got above the 50, got above the 100, and then it lost it again. Okay, this is one we could take a look at the RSIs. Is there bullish divergence? But these can take a while to play out. You want to take a look at it at the weekly or higher. Is there bullish divergence? Well, you see higher lows. There is an upward trend here. Okay, but then the peaks are still getting lower. So we do have these higher lows and lower lows in the action. So there could be some bullish divergence forming. I'm curious now. We talked about this indicator. We're ending with this. 30 minutes, my God. Thank you for subscribing and sticking with me. I like to think out loud, externally process, give you an insight into my brain, and it's up to you guys to take or leave whatever, agree or disagree with whatever. You can see here how, all right, this might be some good news. The absolute dip of ETH Bitcoin pairing in September 2019, look where that strength was, where we just were recently. So this would line up. There's a correlation to say maybe that was the very bottom. And then we want to see this strength moving up. Okay, that wasn't the actual peak for Altseason. Altseason was over here. We could take a look at monthly. Okay, Altseason was a little past here. It was, well, actually, no, sorry. Altseason was over here. It was in May. So that's again, you can't always take RSI as a one-to-one correlation. It is fun to look at though. So thank you all for watching. I hope you are doing well. Have some perspective. What if we are still a year away? I think as I take a look at the RSIs and the charts such as Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum Bitcoin and the different RSI charts on a more macro scale, what those show me is to consider a top might be 6 months to a year away, maybe. But I've shown you my strategy as well, or my perspective, where it can be 6 months, it can be 3 months, it can be a year and a half. I am sticking to my guns and I believe in Altseason. And whether it's 6 months or a year and a half away, you know what I'm looking for. I've laid that out. And that's my strategy. And no matter what, I'm sticking to it, even in times of fear and when the markets aren't doing well, in times of, I mean, this is CNN, times of fear for stocks, I'm sticking to my strategy. I shared with you all what my strategy is. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Take care.